I'm Allie Z, and welcome to my Flosstube. I'm back. Thank you all for coming back. I have missed you all so much. I had a crazy, crazy October, and then I went to Disney World, which was amazing, and then I spent all of November sick, which was terrible, and then the holidays happened, and it just took me a minute to get back into the swing of things, but here I am. I also just want to say, before I started filming Flosstube, I really thought it was like, oh, you set up your camera, you talk about your WIPs, it's so fun. It is super fun, and I love it. And it's actually a lot of work. I mean, you have to get your camera set up all right, you have to do the lighting, you gotta make sure your background's good. Plus, I at least try to set up all my WIPs in a pile and take the needle minders off of everything. This is a WIP parade, so I actually ironed things, I know. I put my WIPs in a vague order, although I think when I ironed everything, they all got out of order, so who knows. We're just gonna take them as they come. And yeah, so filming a Flosstube, and then you have to think about what you want to say. There are things you want to remember. So filming a Flosstube actually takes quite a bit of work, and I just didn't have myself together enough to do that. But I'm back. For those of you who have not watched my videos before, hi everyone, I'm Allie. I live in Philadelphia, PA with my boyfriend and our beautiful, amazing, smelly pit bull, Lucy. I call her Smelly because right now she really needs a bath. Like I said, I live in Philadelphia. I am a social worker by profession. I really love to read as well as stitch. I'm super into Disney. I am super into cross stitch and crafting in general. I also really love paper crafting. I recently have been teaching myself how to crochet. I love dogs. Like I said, I have one. Hopefully we'll have more in the future. Yeah, so welcome. For those of you who are a little newer to Flosstube, this is going to be a WIP parade. A WIP parade is a works in progress, that's WIP, parade, where I show you all of the projects that I have on the go currently. I'm not sure how many there are. I will probably count them after the video. I usually hover somewhere around 30 these days, 30, 35. Some of them are in long-term timeout. Some of them are actively being worked on. It really depends, and I'll talk about all that in my video. I am filming a WIP parade to kick the year off, sort of. I've obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I've been stitching since the new year. I've actually started a bunch of things already this year. So this is going to be a WIP parade / plan / chat / catch you up to where I'm at. I say this every time I film, and I really do want to try and film more consistently this year. Now, with that being said, I'm traveling a lot in February. I'm really excited, actually. I'm going to Disneyland with my bonus mom, Liz. For those of you who don't know, by the way, a bonus mom is someone in your life who is not your mom, but acts as one. Liz is my best friend's mom, and she is amazing. She's incredibly sweet and kind. She loves to craft. She has a sewing room that y'all would die for. And she's just been incredibly generous with her time, and I travel with her and her family and my friend a lot. So I call her my bonus mom. Anyway, I'm going to Florida, and we're going to Disney World, and then I'm staying at her house for an extra week to learn how to sew a little bit and practice the very minimal sewing that she taught me the last time she was here, and just hang out. And then at the end of February, for my friend's 40th birthday, we are all going to Hawaii. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so excited for this trip. So we're actually spending 3 days at Disneyland before we hop over to Hawaii. And then we're spending I think like 3.5 days on the Big Island. We're staying right near Volcanoes National Park. And then we're hopping over to Oahu and we're staying at Aulani, which is the Disney resort on Oahu. I'm so excited. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. My parents, well, my mom especially loved Hawaii, always said that she wanted to go back. So yeah, I'm like really excited for that trip. It should be a lot of fun. But it does mean that I'm going to be away for a lot of February. So I am going to try and film in the gap between Florida and Hawaii. My goal is to film at least twice a month going forward. I'm going to try to put myself on a schedule, because the other thing that tends to happen, at least to me, is that I don't film and then I have so much stuff to talk about and so much stuff to show, and I just get overwhelmed with the amount that I have to say and show, especially because I am very much a chaos stitcher. I stitch what I want, when I want, how I want, whatever. I am not someone who follows any sort of plan. So sometimes I'll have 3 things that I stitched on, or sometimes I'll have 20 things that I stitched on. Sometimes I'll have no start. Sometimes I'll have a bunch of starts. So it's not very predictable, but I am hoping to film more regularly. Thank you all for coming back. For those of you who have not seen me before, welcome. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video. Maybe I'll do like a little cutting, editing action and stick this at the beginning. We'll see. Hold that thought. Okay. Back to where I was. So I will be doing a WIP parade today. That's works in progress. Also, not gonna lie, y'all, I know Flosstube is full of people. But I want people to watch my Flosstube. That's why I make it. I'm not great about keeping up with content, I know, but if you could hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my videos, comment, it would all help my videos get seen by more people, and hopefully that means I'll have more subscribers and I can become famous. I'm already famous in my own mind. My boyfriend calls me an influencer, which I think is hilarious because I'm pretty sure I have less than 1,000 subscribers, but we'll just go with it. So yeah. Woo, this is all very disjointed because I have not filmed in like 3 months and I am very rusty. And you'll also see I keep my camera pointed forward, so I keep like looking at myself in the camera, which is not ideal, but I'm gonna try and look at the camera. Okay. Before I do start, I do just want to show off my awesome shirt. It says, "Tell Death to Go to Hell, Carry Narcan." So, and it has a picture of Narcan on the front, kicking death in the face. So like I said, I am a social worker. And for those of you who don't know, Narcan is an overdose reversal drug that you can give to someone who's experiencing an opioid overdose. So someone who's been doing heroin, fentanyl, oxy, anything that's an opioid. And it can literally bring people back from the dead. It's amazing. In Pennsylvania, you actually don't need a prescription to get Narcan from a pharmacy because a pharmacist can write a script for you. Many people's insurance companies cover Narcan. It's worth having on you, carrying with you. It's very easy to use. And it helps people stay alive while they're using drugs. When I was working as a social worker at an organization in Philadelphia called Prevention Point. We worked almost exclusively, we pretty much worked exclusively with folks who were using drugs, specifically opioids. Like the majority these days is fentanyl. And I saw many, many people have those overdoses reversed by Narcan and live to see another day. The saying is dead drug users don't recover. And that's the truth. You have to keep someone alive in order to give them a chance to get better. And that's my soapbox for the day. That's my little PSA. Tell death to go to hell, carry Narcan. If it's something you're interested in finding out more about, feel free to reach out to me. You can also just Google it. There's tons of stuff out there on the internet. And now back to the cross stitch. All right, so I am actually going to start this WIP parade with a couple of finishes. I I have not done a finished parade. I might do that in the future, but I have a couple of things that I finished recently that I did want to show off. They were all finished last year in 2023, and 2 of them have been WIPs for a very long time, and one of them is just a really cute small by one of my favorite designers. So we're going to start with that one. This is Spoopy. Spoopy by Needle Lot Designs. So that is the design. It was originally charted with the lettering above the image, but I did it on a tiny little ornament cut and did not leave enough room for the lettering, so I improvised. This was a Halloween release last year by Needle Lot Designs. I love Needle Lot Designs. Her stuff is really sort of funny and whimsical. She does a lot of cool animals. I just stitched another design of hers for a swap that I'm in that I'm really excited about and pretty sure I'm going to restitch for myself. But yeah, Spoopy. I just think that little poop ghost is so cute. And like, it just made me laugh. People were like, "You're cross-stitching a toilet." And I was like, "Oh yes, I am." So, and it came out so cute. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Honestly, I might like pin it up in my first floor powder room. I just think it's hilarious. Yeah, I love it. I also kind of want to make it into a patch and like put it on a sweatshirt or something. I don't know. I love it. I really love it. I might have to stitch it again and put it on a sweatshirt because it's just so cute. So that's Spoopy, Needle Lot Designs, very cute. Then, you know, I prepped all my stuff in a pile to pick up. I did not prep where I was gonna put it down. Oops. Okay, well, next finish. This is also a big finish. This was one of my oldest WIPs. This is Mini Cities by Satsuma Street. This can be stitched. The pattern is sold either in 3 separate patterns with London, New York, and Paris, or it can be stitched all in a row like this. I actually stitched this. It's on 14 count white Aida. I started this years ago, and I had to have started this in 2020, I want to say, because I took this with me to Thanksgiving 2021 and I had already been working on it like for a while. This is going to be a gift to my niece and nephew who live in New York City. They live in Brooklyn actually, although I have to say, okay, so hear me out. This is supposed to be the Brooklyn Bridge, which it does, the shape of it does look like the Brooklyn Bridge, but the color choice, and I did stitch this with all the called for colors, the color choice kind of makes it look like the Golden Gate. Like not exactly the structure, you know, the actual like bridge towers look different on the Golden Gate, but the color is very Golden Gate. But yeah, so I stitched this for my niece and nephew. I'm going to get it framed and gift it to them. I'm currently debating whether to like backstitch their names underneath. I'm not sure, but I love this. I'm so happy with how it came out. I think it'll be so cute for their bedroom in Brooklyn. So that is Mini Cities by Satsuma. And then my other finish, which I just finished like, I don't know, not even a week ago, is another big finish. I started this one in early 2021, and this is actually another Satsuma Street. This is Ghastly Greetings. So this is a long skinny stitch, and I'll put up a picture of the cover photo here. So the finishing technique for this is she recommends that you basically stitch it into a tube and then put it on dowel so it becomes a bell pull. I am going to make it into a bell pull. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna stitch it into a tube or cut it down and put some sort of like spoopy fabric on the back. But I love this. Again, stitched all on with the called for thread. Satsuma Street has, Jody is the name of the designer for Satsuma Street. That's her company. Jody Rice has an amazing eye for color, and the color palettes that she uses are so gorgeous and fun. Like, I just love this color palette for Halloween. It's so fun. I especially love, I think my favorites are, I have a thing with owls. I love owls. So I really love those owls. Here, I'm gonna get in so you can see them. I also really enjoy the way the ghosts came out. They're super cute. And I just really enjoyed stitching this whole thing. Like, I love how it came out. I'm gonna hang it up in my house every Halloween. I already know where it's gonna go. And it's funny actually, so this I actually did stitch. It's called for on 28 count black linen. And I was a new stitcher and I called some LNS somewhere and was like, I need a cut of 28 count black linen in 10 inches by 24 inches, because that's what it calls for. And they asked me what I was stitching and I told them, and they said, listen, we will send you that cut of black linen. We think you should also get it in black Ada, because if you have not stitched on black linen, it's hard to see. And if you're a new stitcher, you might be better off stitching on Ada. And I took one look at the black linen and how small the holes were. At the time, I had not stitched on linen, I don't think. And immediately was like, oh, I'm really glad I have the black Ada. So I do actually have that cut of 28 count black cashel linen in 10 inches by 24 inches. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm very excited about this finish. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, actually, I was just gonna say, I don't know what Satsuma Street pattern I'm going to stitch next, but I actually have a plan for a smalls exchange, and I'm going to stitch a Satsuma Street for my smalls exchange, and I'm very excited about that. So those are the 3 finishes that I wanted to show off. And now we are on to whips. Let the count begin. No, just kidding. So just to give you, if you have not watched me before, just to give you a little bit of an idea, I stitch a huge variety of stuff. As you can probably tell from my hair, I'm a fairly colorful person. I love things with a lot of color. I do not tend to stitch prim. Or like more traditional. I tend to stitch more modern designs, bold, colorful. I love a fancy lady. I'm obsessed with Nora Corbett. You can see I have a whole Mirabilia retreat recap, and I absolutely loved getting to meet Nora at the Queen City Stitch Retreat. So that was really exciting. Woo! I'm like going off about all this stuff, and I'm realizing that there are probably people out there watching who might not know what I'm talking about. And I'm going on a tangent. You can tell. You really could tell I have not filmed in a while. Okay. So let's just start with the whips. I'm just gonna go in the order of how they're stacked next to me. And actually looking over, the one that I have on top is, I have one that's the closest to a finish, and I have the one that's my newest start. So we're gonna start there. So closest to a finish whip. This is Butter Believe It by Silver Creek Samplings. It says, I have a lot to say. Maybe you should get popcorn. I love it. All I have left to stitch on this is I need to stitch in like a couple of pieces of popcorn up here and a couple of pieces of popcorn down here, maybe like less than 10 pieces of popcorn, and I'm done. I did change, this was charted with the year. I changed it to my initials because I wasn't sure what year I was gonna finish it, and also I wanted it to have my stamp on it, so to say. As someone who loves to talk, I love this pattern. I think it's hilarious. This is stitched with all of the called for floss, and it's on 28 count linen, one of the Picture This Plus neutrals. I find it very hard to tell the Picture This Plus neutrals apart. I find that often they're very similar to each other, depending on the dye lot you get. Sometimes they look the same, or like, you know, this dye lot of Oaken looks like the last dye lot of Earthen, looks like Heartland. So I don't know. I think it's Earthen, might be Legacy. I don't know. But this is a Picture This Plus neutral in 28 count linen. I picked 28 count because I wanted this to be as big as possible. So this is my whip that's closest to a finish. And then on the same piece of fabric, I actually have my whip that is my newest start. So this is, I actually don't know the official title. This is the Valentine Gnome pattern by Autumn Lane Stitchery. And here's my little start. So I am really lucky to be good friends with Maggie, aka Kitschy Whips, and Fiber Arts Amy. And they last year created and ran the inaugural Queen City Stitch Retreat with Nora Corbett, the designer who designs Nora Corbett and also Mirabilia Designs. She was the inaugural guest of honor and featured artist at the retreat. It was amazing. It was so much fun. I had the privilege of helping out with the retreat, and I will be doing that again this year. This year, the featured guest of honor artist is actually Autumn Lane Stitchery. So Cassandra and Erin will be coming to the retreat. I'm so excited to meet them. Erin is the amazing, fantastical artist. Cassandra is the designer who translates everything into cross stitch. They're a husband and wife team. They make amazing designs, especially their Halloween stuff, but I love Valentine's Day. And they had this Valentine gnome design. I also love gnomes. In, I think it was February 2021 of just cross stitch. Yeah. And I am stitching that design. I'm using all the called for DMC. I am stitching it on, again, the same piece of fabric. I think it's 28 count. Like I said, earthen, oaken, something like that. It's close to the called for. The called for was a neutral picture this plus. Ooh, drop my piece of fabric there. But that's where I'm at. And I just started that last week. So I'm excited. I own many Autumn Lane patterns. This is my first Autumn Lane start. So I actually they have a pattern called Hawaiian Mermaid that I have kitted up for when I'm in Hawaii. I'm excited to stitch that while I'm there. I think that'll be kind of fun. Yeah. Another recent start is part of a round robin that I am doing. So a round robin stitch is when you have one piece that you stitch on that is also stitched on by other people. And it can be designed a couple of different ways. Sometimes it's one pattern that everyone is stitching. Sometimes it's different patterns by the same designer that people are passing around. And I am doing an Ink Circles round robin with Maggie, aka Kitschy Whips, Stephanie of Cross Stitch the Globe, and Anna of Anna's Books and Stitches. And when I say we're doing an Ink Circles round robin, Tracy Horner of Ink Circles has many amazing mandala designs, and they are fairly reasonably sized, but they are repeating designs. And so I believe it was Michelle Bendy Stitchy who had the idea of doing an Ink Circles round robin where each person picks a mandala, and then you are with 4 people, and then each person in the round robin stitches a quarter of the mandala, and then you get your piece back. Awesome. So I chose the Hamsa mandala by Ink Circles, and here is my start. So I started my section. I'm doing the bottom. So I actually divided my pattern up a little bit differently. Instead of just splitting it in 4, I cut mine sort of around the design so that each person would stitch a complete hamsa. And I am here, let me hold that a little bit closer. So I actually did a color conversion on this. So it is originally charted in greens, and I wanted to do it in blues to honor / to sort of bring in the colors of the jewelry that protects against the evil eye. When you've seen an evil eye, it's that deep blue and then the lighter blue and the white and the black. So here is my start. So I'm using a color palette of blues, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a very pale blue. Hold on, I'm gonna hold it close. Yeah, you can see it. It's in here. And there's actually a very pale blue that's in the hand. So there are 4 shades of blue and black in this pattern. I can give the conversion if anyone's interested. It's 820, 38.46, 38.43, 7.47, and then 3.10 for the black. So I'm excited about that. We're giving ourselves lots of time for these. We're gonna take a year. I'm super, super pumped to stitch on everyone else's choices as well. It's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to getting this piece back completed. I think it's gonna be beautiful. And this is on a plain piece of mystery white 28 count linen. I got it a long time ago when I wanted to experiment with stitching on linen. Never stitched on it. Don't know, I don't even remember where it was from. It's just white linen. So that's that. And then, oh, I have another recent-ish start. So the next piece is Dog's Declaration by Ink Circles. I love this piece. And this piece, I love dogs in general. I have a pit bull, like I said, and I've had a few dogs who have been really meaningful to me in my life, and I'm like very much a dog person. I basically, as soon as I lived alone and could have a dog, I got one, and I've had dogs ever since. I can't, at this point in my life, I can't imagine myself living without one. Even with all of the traveling that I do, like I just love it. I just love having a dog. I love dogs. I really do. So here is my start. I just have a little start on the corner. Most of the time I'm a top left corner starter. Sometimes I'll center start, but I'm a big top left corner. Also, I see that we're already almost a half hour in and I've gotten through like 3 pieces, so it's gonna be a long video. Okay. So here's my start. I'm stitching this on a piece of mystery linen in 28. I think it's 28 count from Grace Notes Fabric. This was a lucky find at the Grace Notes Fabric retreat. I'm obsessed with it. It is a one of a kind. It will never be recreated. It's like pinks and browns and greens and oh my God, it's so good. Okay. And actually, so this was originally a whole yard of fabric and I was like, oh my God, I can't buy a whole yard of fabric. What am I gonna do with it? So I split it with Hannah Dowling, who is another amazing stitcher. And she is also stitching Dog's Declaration and also stitching it on this fabric. So we're gonna be twinsies and I'm excited about that too. I'm stitching this with the it's actually called for in Valdani embroidery cottons. I'm loving them so far. They're like beautifully variegated. You can see, so these motifs on the border, hold on. So these motifs on the border are actually one floss, but you can see the variegation looks really cool. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, and that's looking good. I've only worked on it twice. But it's a really enjoyable stitch. I am in no rush to finish this. It's meant to be a piece to honor the dogs that I've loved in my life. I'm gonna try and put like their names or the years somewhere in that I had them, like somewhere into the design. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to just stitching this and enjoying it. Like I said, I have a tiny little start, but I'm looking forward to the stitch. That's gonna be a long-term one. And I'm excited about it. All right, next up is another new start, another big project. You will notice that most of my projects are very large. I tend to choose large projects. I tend to love large projects. And I think often my thinking is sort of like if I'm going to put the time into stitching it, I want to stitch something that I really love and I'm going to want to look at for a while. And often those things are the larger projects, which means that they take me a long time too, which is fine. Like, again, I am a stitch what you want kind of stitcher. I don't put time limits on myself. Sometimes I'll try to get stuff done for like a specific event, whatever. So far I've missed most of those goals, but that's okay. So this is Mary Morgan's by Fox and Rabbit. This is my first reproduction sampler. I would say this is a pretty extraordinary reproduction sampler. A few years ago, I think, someone was stitching this as part of the Lisa Frank, they called it the Lisa Frank Sampler Sal because of the color palette. This reproduction sampler has an amazing rose right in the middle of it. I have a teensy little start on the border. Again, little teensy start. This is on 40 count baked clay by Fox and Rabbit. This is the called for fabric. I am not a 40 count stitcher. It hurts my eyeballs and I'm not really used to it. 32 count is like really my happy place. And I have a lot of 32 count and 28 count in my collection because I stitch a lot of Mirabilias and Fancy Ladies, and in order to do the beading, you really want 32 or 28 count to like fit the beads. But this is on 40 count. I love how my stitches look. They're beautiful. They're delicate. I'm really, so far, like this border has been fun to stitch. The whole thing looks amazing. I do think that the photo does not do the color palette justice. So hold on, I'm gonna grab the colors from over here. So these are the DMC. I'm using the called for DMC, and these are the DMC colors for this design. And like, look at those bright ass colors. I love it. It really does have like a Lisa Frank kind of feel to it, with like the like bright greens and this like hot coral and the reds and the orange and the like electric blue and the marigold. So I'm super excited to see this come about. I decided to do a top left corner start because the thing I really want to stitch is that rose in the middle. And I was afraid that if I did a center start and stitch the rose, I would just stitch that and never stitch the rest of the sampler. And I do really like the rest of the sampler. So once again, this thing is huge. I think it's like, I don't know, like 40,000, 60,000 stitches. Like it's something huge. So long-term project. I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be so fun. Yeah, and these are Adam Hart floss drops. I use all sorts of different floss solutions. I use floss away bags. I use bobbins. I have a complete set of DMC that's all bobbinated. I use floss drops. I use like temporary floss drops. I use these. I have floss cards for some things. It really just depends on the project. Although I will say I do love the way it looks when you like hold up the floss drops and you can just like spread out all these beautiful flosses. It's nice. So that's Mary Morgan's. Nice little start. I'm excited about that. Cam the Stitcher, who is one of my favorite floss tubers and who is also coming to the Queen City Stitch Retreat, is stitching that. She's much further along. And hers is looking gorgeous and I can't wait. I love watching her progress. And like seeing her stitch it really has inspired me to start that. I've been wanting to start it for a while, so I'm excited to get going on that. Alrighty. Okay. So next up is a stitch from when I first started stitching that I never finished. This is Bless This Mess. It's from a pattern on Etsy. The reason that I stopped stitching it is because I love the lettering, but I do not love this, like, I don't know, something about the way the wreath is charted is like very, the flowers are like weirdly flat. I'll try and find a photo. But I love the lettering and I do like the sort of snarky sentiment. I've been thinking that maybe I have a first floor like powder room, and I've been thinking that maybe I will stitch sort of like the like funny snarky things like my little spoopy ghost and this, and like just pin them up in there. I feel like that could be kind of fun. Yeah, like I said, I love the lettering, don't love the wreath. I'm thinking like maybe I'll restitch the lettering onto something else and like do a different border. I don't know. But it's not officially on hiatus, but like I have so much other stuff to reach for. I don't reach for this. So on hiatus pretty much. See, that goes in a separate pile. It's getting tucked away. Alrighty. This is Starry Moth, I think it's called. And this design was in the October 2023 issue of Just Cross Stitch magazine, and it's by Janine McGowan of The Blue Flower. And I think Bendy Stitchy, who is another floss tuber, started this as a Sal, and I'm not like a huge fan of moths in real life. I'm not an especially like spooky slash, like I like Halloween patterns and things, but I'm not like an especially like spooky stitcher or anything, but I love a moth pattern. I own like 4 or 5 of them. And I started this one along with the Sal, haven't gotten very far. This is a printed Zweigart fabric. It is Belfast linen. I don't remember the name. I will look it up. It's a small little start. It's cute. I don't know. I mean, it's really not a priority. It probably won't get worked on much, but I have it, started it. Alrighty, next up. This is Gaia from the Earth Day bundle by Katarnian Creations. I love this stitch. This is a monochrome stitch. I am using, it's on Oatmeal Ada, and I am using a silk floss called Marine, dyed by Dyeing for Cross Stitch. I love this. This is actually like, feels like I started this while I was on vacation in Puerto Rico. This feels like a travel stitch to me. I'm probably going to bring it with me to Hawaii. The flights are very long, so I will be bringing quite a bit of stitching to try and keep me occupied on those long flights. And I think this will be a perfect travel piece because it's just one color and I can just sit with the pattern and go. So I'm excited about that. She's a really beautiful pattern. Have plans to work on her, but we'll see. Alrighty. So this is the first of my Nora Corbett WIPs. This is Moon Glow. And this fabric is by Jackson Fabric Arts. The last time I looked, they were taking a break on Etsy. I'm hoping they'll be back soon because I love this fabric. And Jackson Fabric Arts dyes hemp fabric actually. And I believe it's only available in 32 count. And this color is called Jacobstad. It's actually, I feel like it's reading lighter on camera than it actually is. It looks quite dark in person. It's also reading grayer. I'm trying to get a more accurate, let's see if I put it over here. No, it still reads pretty gray. This color actually in real life feels like a dark teal. Like if I put, yeah. I don't know how teal it looks, but you can sort of see, this is like, it looks closer to this in real life, I would say. It's very teal. Now, I love the way the moon pops on it. I actually feel like the leaf is like looking kind of nice. I wanted those to fade into the background a little bit, but I'm a little bit worried because the back stitching and the backstitched woman in the middle is really the important part of the pattern. And I'm a little worried that she's not going to show up. So I might honestly count down from the moon, which would be a pain in the ass, but I might do it and see if, and like start the back stitching and see if it shows up, because I love this fabric, but I do really want her to show up. And I am doing this as part of the Moon Glow Magic Sal with Elizabeth from Savory Sewing, Savory Stitches, Savory Sewing. I'll check on that. And Stephanie from Cross Stitch the Globe. Anyone is welcome to join in. And I believe actually, I think Peacock Stitcher joined in. There are a couple of other people who have joined in as well, which we love it. Please join in. Please stitch her. She's gorgeous. She's curvy. We love it. I'm super excited. I do want to continue on this one, but I'm paused because I'm just not sure about this fabric. But we'll see. Alrighty, next up, let's do another Nora Corbett. This is Junebug. Here we go. Here's my start. This is actually on a Grace Notes fabric this is called Vivace. This is 28 count linen, I believe. And while Vivace does exist as a colorway in the Grace Notes in the Grace Notes collection. This specific iteration of Vivace, it's no longer quite the same. This is from when Vivace was Fabric of the Month. And Maggie of Kitschy Whips very generously gave me half of her cut because she stitched Junebug on this fabric, and I was obsessed and was like, I cannot stitch Junebug on anything else. And she gave me her fabric. So we're going to be Junebug twinsies. And when she gave it to me, she said, I would do anything for Junebug. And I was like, okay, thank you. Not that flippantly. I know it was a really big deal. Thank you, Maggie. I'm coming along on her. She's super fun. She's a really easy stitch. If you're thinking about trying a Nora Corbett, this is a great start. She has one Krynick, one bead, and one treasure. The Krynick is going to go in this middle section, so you get some practice stitching with the Krynick. There's beading in her, I'm not going to call them antlers, in her like head antennae things. And she has, you know, the one treasure. I'm really enjoying stitching on her. She's really cute. I love the colors. I cannot wait to have a Junebug twin with Maggie. So I'm excited about that. And while we're at it, I'm just going to do all my Noras. I have them in a little pile over here. So, all right, next up, this is a start. I think it goes this. I think it goes this way. I think it goes this way. I'm actually not sure, but I think it goes this way. This is a start on Letters from Nora R. So I have two little girl cousins, who are the kiddos of one of my favorite, cousins. And their names are Riley and Stella. So I am stitching Letters from Nora R and S. So I've started the R for her. It's going to be, you know, the R with like a little fairy sitting on it. It's really beautiful, really pretty, really beautiful. And the Letters from Nora and Letters from Mermaid series are actually both stitched with Classic Colorworks. Used to be called Crescent Colors, now called Classic Colorworks. So I'm stitching this in all the called for threads, beads, all of that. This is 28 count, I think, Crystal Confetti by Picture This Plus. I don't know if you can see the opalescent. Hold on, I'll hold it closer to the camera. Yeah, you can see it now. It's sparkly. And this is really beautiful. I think it's going to look beautiful for both the R and the S. I kind of like the idea of doing both of their letters on the same fabric. I think it'll be really pretty, so excited about that. All right. And then my last Nora Corbett that I have started, this is also a Sal. This is Autumn Blaze, and she is part of the Petite Pixie Sal. And I'm actually stitching her with, with Melissa of Sheba Designs. And I love Melissa. First of all, Melissa is an amazing human. Second of all, Melissa makes gorgeous project bags. If you have not seen them, go look at Sheba Designs on Etsy. Her stuff is awesome. She chooses really great fabrics. Stuff that I really love too. Like, she does like some of the Alexander Henry, like Gas fabric. She does all the Tula Pink. I love Tula Pink. She does all the Tula Pink. She's an amazing project bag maker and also an amazing stitcher. And Melissa and I met at the Grace Notes retreat, and she told me that she was stitching all of her Miras and Noras on tiny fabric on like 40 count because she did not have a lot of wall space. And so she needed to stitch them small so they would all fit. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I want to stitch a small pixie too. So, so I am stitching Autumn Blaze. I am stitching her 1/1 on 28 count. So you can see those stitches are tiny, 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 tiny stitches. Like, holy moly small. Here, let me hold it in front of my face so the camera sees it. There we go. I love the way the colors are popping on this fabric. This fabric is, like I said, a 28 count. I believe it's called Marl Lake Horizontal. And this is by the Crossed Wing collection. And the Crossed Wing collection actually does painted fabric. So this fabric is hand painted. I bought this piece at Ye Olde Cross Stitchery, which is a local needlework shop in Bristol, Pennsylvania, which is about a half hour from me. I believe you can shop online from them. I don't know if Crosswing Collection is still even like dyeing or painting fabrics anymore. I'm not sure, but this is gorgeous. I have another piece of fabric from them that I love. And I'm like saving this other half to do another Petite Pixie. But I'm excited. And so for the Petite Pixies, you have two options. If you're stitching on something like a 36 count or a 40 count, you can find petite beads and replace the called for beads with petite, smaller sized beads. Or what I'm doing in this case, you can find metallics and sub metallics for the beads. The other thing I think you could probably try, although I haven't done it, is using blending filament with DMC. However, I will say this is 1/1. So I don't know that you could like fit blending filament with DMC onto this size of, 28 count 1/1. Like I think even the metallic, I might just have to do one leg. We're gonna see. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think it's coming out beautifully. Love the way the colors are popping. It's great stuff. All right, we are 45 minutes in and I am hungry. So we are gonna take a brief lunch break and I will see y'all on the flip side of my lunch. Okay. Woo! All right. Okay, we're back. Whew. Okay, we're back. Hi, and welcome back to my WIP parade. I'm back from lunch. Like, my stomach was growling and I was like, I have to eat. I'm gonna die. I'm one of those people who, once I get hungry, like, that's it. That's it. It's over. I have to eat. I'm very unpleasant to be around if I have not eaten. Okay. Back to the WIP parade. All right. What's up next? Let's see. See, like I said at the beginning, like I said at the beginning, when I originally set everything up, I like put things in nice order and put everything in piles and it was all organized. And then I ironed everything and things got out of order. So now it's like a surprise what WIP is coming next. Okay. Next up, we have my first full coverage piece. This is a mini Hade. This is called Mini Teacup Bath by Randall Spangler. I love Randall Spangler. I think his stuff is so cute. This is my little itty bitty start. Now this is, like I said, it's a mini. This is on Easy Grid, Easy Count, whatever. This is on pre-gridded, 28 count, even weave. I'm stitching it 1/1. You can actually see on the fabric, I drew little corners as to how big it's gonna be. You can see the little blue corners. So it's not gonna be that big. And it's like 40,000 stitches. It's coming out beautifully so far. You can see the top of the book starting to emerge. I love it. It's super cute. I do want to get it done eventually. I've sort of accepted that my full coverages may never get done. I don't have many. But yeah, it's enjoyable. One of the things that I love about cross stitch is that I feel like even within cross stitch, there are different kinds of stitching, right? So you have like full coverage stitching, which is one kind of stitching. And then you have like stitching lettering, you have like sampler stitching, you have fancy ladies, you have stitching that is very detailed and where you really have to follow the pattern. Then you have stitching where you're gonna just go, go, go. And I really appreciate that there's something for everyone and something for every mood, which is part of why I'm I guess Jessie Marie calls it sweewee. That's part of why I'm a stitch what I want stitcher, because if I'm in the mood to stitch on full coverage, I want to do it. If I'm in the mood to stitch on a fancy lady to really be like following the pattern and counting and, precise, like I want to do it. If I'm tired and I don't have the energy to look at 40 count. I don't want to look at 40 count. If it's sunny outside and the light's great, like awesome, let's stitch on that tiny fabric. So yeah, not much more to say about this. I love it. I think it's cute. I really do like pretty much all of my WIPs. And every time I go through them, I'm like, I want to stitch on all of them. So that's the other thing. I try to just like let the wind take me wherever. I don't tend to get a lot of finishes because I stitch on a lot of different things and I pick big projects, but that's okay. I'm coming along. I still have not, with the exception of items that I've sent out in swaps, I don't think that there is a single piece that I have fully finished for myself. I have like a little stack of things that I need to go get framed. And I really do want to do that. I just, you know, it costs money and I'm not really willing to do it myself. So yeah, there's that. Okay, next up. Ooh, this is a fun one. Okay, so this is 1544 Band Sampler by Arlene Cohen of Works by ABC. Now, so this is from patterns that were created in 1544. And if you look at the photo, it looks like a very traditional band sampler. Well, I love colorful things. So I have an extensive collection of beautiful, very colorful, very out there, hand-dyed floss and fabric, but especially like I have some really cool hand-dyed flosses from some amazing artisans, and I never know how to use them because you can't really use them in patterns like Fancy Ladies, and it's tough to use them in samplers because they're crazy. So I decided that I wanted to make this 1544 band sampler into a showcase for my crazy flosses. So here is my WIP. I just started, and each band is actually, my idea is that each band will be a different floss. And I pulled a whole bunch. I'm keeping them in the project bag, just to give you an idea of like the variety. So, this is Daydreams by Night Stalker's Calling. That's actually this right here. That was that. So that's that stripe. This is a one-of-a-kind floss dyed by Forbidden Fiber Co. That's the second stripe, and I am keeping track of what floss I'm using for each stripe. I know this top one was Midnight by Mrs. Seda Silk, and this little band, which, oh my god, this color, this like reddish pinkish color is like my favorite color of all time. That's Ruby Slippers by Night Stalker's Calling. So I have these. I'll just to show a couple of the other ones that I've pulled. So here are like some of the other flosses that I have in my bag of tricks for this. So this is Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. These are more, this is a Mrs. Seda Silk. These three are more Night Stalkers. If you love colorful, crazy floss, Night Stalker's Calling is amazing. I also love the Stitchy Ferret. The Stitchy Ferret is a UK dyer, and her stuff is off the chain, and it's so colorful. Yeah, so I have a bunch of different things that I'm planning on trying out, using, seeing what pops up. It's gonna be crazy. I'm excited for it. I like stitching geometric things like this, and I kind of love, so I feel like if you look at the photo, which I'll put again here, it looks like a very traditional sampler, and I almost feel like in all of the different colors, it almost looks like, I don't know, space hieroglyphics or something. Like, I feel like it looks sort of like cool and cyborgy. I don't know, it gives me that vibe of like sci-fi or fantasy, like runes, you know? So I'm loving it so far. We'll see where it takes me. I think it's gonna be like eye-screamingly colorful when I'm done. It might be crazy, who knows, but I'm having fun stitching it. And this is on an offcut of that same white, plain white as a backdrop for this, plain white 28 count linen. So yeah. And if you have not looked at Works by ABC, her stuff is really fantastic and interesting. Arlene is an amazing designer and a great person. I have another piece by her coming up, and I have several patterns in my collection that I really do want to stitch. All right, so next up this is Summer Quaker by Leela's Studio. And Samantha, the Hygge Stitcher, started a stitch along for her birthday, hashtag live in the sunshine Sal. So I started this as part of that stitch along back in August. And I am stitching this on 40 count latte by Fiber on a Whim. And that is the called for fabric. Now the model was stitched on 46 count, but the designer, Leela's Studio, did say that she felt that these should be stitched on 40 count or lower. So like bigger than 40 count or bigger. And I already struggle with 40 count. I don't think I could stitch on 46. Anyway, here's my start. I'm doing all the called for flosses and fabric. It's all charted in DMC. I love it. If you have seen Spring Quaker, and she just released Autumn Quaker, Leela just released Autumn Quaker, like, I don't know, a couple of months ago. They're great. I do want to stitch all of them. I have Spring Quaker kitted up, and I'm doing some color conversions on Spring Quaker, but I have Spring Quaker kitted up to start. And here's my start on Summer Quaker. So I do want to work on that more. That I am somewhat of a seasonal stitcher, at least with this. This does feel very summery. I haven't gotten to it yet, but like there's like motifs with crabs and things. I don't know. I think I will probably want to stitch on this more when the weather's warm. Maybe I'll take it to Hawaii with me. Although I don't know that like 40 count sampler stitching is really what I'm gonna want to do on vacation, but we'll see. All right, next up is, I love this one too. Okay. Next up is Bernard's Books by Modern Folk Embroidery. If you don't know about Modern Folk Embroidery, you live under a rock, or you're a very new stitcher. Jacob, the designer for Modern Folk Embroidery, is a genius. His designs truly are modern folk embroidery, and they're beautiful. He's an amazing stitcher. He's an amazing designer. I cannot say enough good things about him. I have a huge wish list of patterns by him. This is one of them. I am hoping to give this as a gift to my boyfriend's parents at some point. I'm not rushing it. I'm really enjoying stitching it. I love negative space stitching, and this pattern has a lot of negative space stitching. This pattern is also only about 16,000 stitches, which is a lot, but for Jacob is not a lot. So here is my start on Bernard's Books. I am stitching this in DMC 816, and this is on, I believe it's 32 count. This is on 32 count French vanilla linen by Grace Notes Fabric. I really love stitching on Grace Notes fabric, linen especially. It's very soft. Even this like pretty see-through, can't really see it on camera, but like it's a pretty see-through neutral, but it doesn't feel like flimsy. It doesn't feel like gauzy. It's lovely to stitch on. And I'm loving the look of this red on this fabric. So it's a nice little start. Again, not in any rush. I do really enjoy the negative space stitching. It's looking beautiful. Yeah, every time I pull this out, I enjoy stitching on it and I want to keep going. So it'll just be a really fun stitch. I will say it's interesting. So I mentioned having like a lot of like crazy flosses and things, and it's hard because it's so hard. So hard. The struggle is real, you guys. Okay, anyway, yeah, I'm rolling my eyes at myself a little bit. But the thing is, there are many monochromatic designs that I really do love. This one, for example. But I want to let the design shine. And I feel that if this were too variegated, or even variegated at all, really, it would take away from the beauty of the actual stitched design. And so I end up stitching it in DMC or in like a very subtly variegated floss because I want the design itself to shine through. I also have a bad habit of buying both crazy colorful flosses and crazy colorful fabric. And unfortunately, it's a little tough to combine the two because then you end up with like a little mishmash, which you don't want. So I do struggle to find ways to use those crazy flosses in my stitching because I really enjoy them. And I really want to do right by the designs that I'm stitching. So, you know, this is ending up getting stitched in DMC and it's looking gorgeous and, you know, much cheaper, which I do appreciate, but I don't know. I struggle to find opportunities to use those like really variegated flosses. There is a pattern called Patchwork by Jan Houten, I think. Jan Houten. I will put a picture of it up here. Folks have done a rainbow conversion on this. Folks have done a beach convert. Georgia Girls Stitching did a beach conversion on this. That's amazing. And I did buy that pattern with the intention of like picking crazy colors and stitching that in crazy colors. And again, it might be like a total eye bleeding mess, but we'll see. I've also thought about doing like a rainbow conversion on that. But using like variegated flosses. So like doing like red variegated, orange variegated, yellow variegated. We'll see. That's for another time. That's in future plans, but Bernard's books. Alrighty. Ooh, next up we have another fancy lady. This is Candy by Whittier Stitches. Cat is the name of the human behind Whittier Stitches. And Kat and I both, I think, shared a love of fancy ladies and a desire for curvier fancy ladies. I am a curvy person. I use the word fat to describe myself. I don't think of that as a negative word. I'm a fat person. That's fine with me. I actually like my body most of the time. And a lot of the fancy ladies out there are drawn and designed to be very thin and lithe and willowy and flowing, and that's great and they're beautiful, and also it is nice to see my own body type represented in stitching. So Kat designed a curvy fancy lady, and to my great delight and honor, she allowed me to help her test stitch it. So I did actually get to start this design about a month in advance of its release, and got to work with Kat to sort of get it ready to be released. And this is Candy. Now I am stitching the darkest skin tone design that she offered, and I'm also stitching the pink version. And the fabric that I am stitching her on is Vintage Stormy Night, which is a Zweigart fabric. And this is a Belfast linen, so it's 32 count. And here she is. You guys, I love her. So first of all, she's designed by a tattoo artist, and I feel like you can really feel that in the design. Like it's a very bold sort of graphic design. I love these pinks, like stitching with these pinks. Oh, it brings me so much joy. And I love seeing a curvy fancy lady. This stitch to me is really like the perfect, it's the perfect balance because you have like the shading and the detail, but there's also like a lot of block stitching, right? So like each of these swirls is a block. You have some block stitching in here. And so it's just been a joy to stitch. Really so much fun to work on. And I was a little nervous, I'll be honest, when I saw how big she was, when I was test stitching her, and you know, I really had hoped to get her done and I didn't, and I'm bummed about that, but I cannot wait to keep stitching on her. She is gorgeous. And she has like a moon behind her as well and some sparklies, and oh, she's beautiful. I love her. She's awesome. So that's Candy, and you can actually find the pattern. Kat is very generously offering it for free. I think that's amazing. And like I said, very generous of her. It is a pay what you want pattern. I do think that if you can afford to do so, please do pay for her. She is worth the money, and Kat's put a lot of time and effort and energy into this pattern, and it absolutely was a labor of love, and Candy is worth the money and Kat is worth the money. So please do pay her for this pattern. That being said, if you cannot afford to pay her for this pattern, then by all means, like, grab it for free and stitch it. But yeah, it's amazing. She's great. And I believe that Kat is offering, so the original pattern is greens with the yellow sash, and then she also has blues, purples, and the pinks that I'm stitching. And I believe there are also 4 skin tone options. Oh, and it's Pattern Keeper compatible. Now, of course, the back stitch doesn't go into Pattern Keeper, but it is Pattern Keeper compatible. There are partial stitches in like the edges and stuff. You can see them here. I'll show you. Let's see, do I have, yeah, you can see them, like see the little, yeah. So you can see there are partial stitches, and those don't show up great in Pattern Keeper, so you do need to consult the PDF, but for the vast majority of the pattern, you can just use Pattern Keeper, which is amazing. I love Pattern Keeper. I'm a big digital pattern devotee. So yeah, fantastic. Okay, and since we're on the Fancy Lady track, let's sort of glide onto my Mirabilias. So I mentioned earlier, Nora Corbett is the designer of the Nora Corbett line and the Mirabilia line. The Nora Corbett designs are smaller, more manageably sized. You can usually fit them on 1/8 of fabric. The Mirabilia line is much larger designs, more elaborate beading. They include silks, and they're much, like I said, much larger. Most of them do fit on a fat quarter, although it's sort of funny because I'm currently have 3 on the go, and 2 of them are on larger than a fat quarter. But that's okay. A word of advice, and I've said this in previous videos, and I will say it again. When you see the photos on the front of a Nora Corbett and a Mirabilia, they look like they're the same size because the photos are the same size and they're fancy ladies. Do not be fooled. They are not the same size. Mirabilias are big. Nora Corbett's not as big. Mirabilias are really big. And I just didn't realize. I don't know how I didn't realize. Like, I knew in theory that mirrors were much bigger, and then I started stitching one and I was like, oh, this is much bigger. They're much bigger. It is not a bad thing. It's just like, I feel like sometimes you see a photo of a design and you get in your mind that it's a certain size and it is not that size. And that is how I feel about mirrors. So we're going to start with my Mira that is the most done. This is Queen Bee by Mirabilia. There is also a Miss Queen Bee, which is a Nora Corbett pattern. I do have that pattern in my collection. However, Queen Bee is the Mirabilia pattern. No Miss on the front. Okay. And here she is. I love her. She is gorgeous. Okay. So this is Queen Bee. And actually I got my fabric. I got my WIP signed by Nora at the retreat. So you can see that's her signature on the bottom. And I'm really excited because I think when I'm done, I'm going to sign over here. So it has the designer's signature and the stitcher's signature. Ooh, I love it. Okay. Queen Bee. I still have quite a bit to go. There we go. There's like a whole honeycomb structure up here, and I have to do all the beading and all the backstitch. So I have a while to go on this still, but the queen is all stitched at least. She still needs beading and backstitch, but she is all cross-stitched. I love working on her. That is a big dress. That dress is like 5,000 stitches and it's full coverage. Hashtag worth it, worth every stitch. I loved it. I love working on it. The Krynic is so shiny. All of this empty space in here is beading. There's tons of empty space in her bodice. There's all beading along here. Like I said, there's this whole honeycomb structure in the top that's all beaded. She is going to be a true queen when she is done. I love her. This is on Dark Gilded by Mystic Fabrics. This is a 32 count Lugana. I actually love stitching on Lugana. It often doesn't dye as vibrantly as linen, but obviously this dyed very vibrantly. I love this color for her. Come on, Queen Bee, she's got to be on something the color of honey. Also, it's funny. So I love the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and this is not meant to be the Queen of Hearts. In fact, Nora has a design called Royal Games with a Queen of Heart like playing card. But to me, the structure of the dress and the checkerboard and the color scheme is just very Queen of Hearts. So that's who I always think of when I see this design. I love working on her. She's a pleasure. Yeah, it's hard because there are so many good designers out there. But I have a real love for Mirabilia's and Nora Corbett's. I think the thing about Nora Corbett, and I would argue that like there are some other designers who are similar, and actually some other designers who are the opposite. But Nora Corbett is really an artist. She is an artist who charts her art so that we can stitch it. But her artwork is extraordinary. And because of that, the stitches are really art. And I'm not saying that all stitching is not art. It is. And like, this could be a painting or a drawing. And it's based on a painting or a drawing. And her use of color, the faces that she creates, like the shading, the draping of the fabric, like it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. It's really incredible. I love working on her stuff. It's definitely a journey. Takes me a long time. I'm not a fast stitcher. I really have to take my time. And I've been working on her for, let's see, a little over a year. And I really pushed. I wanted to get the Queen like completely stitched for the Queen City retreat in October. So I there was a while where I only worked on her to try and get her done. I can't imagine her taking less than 2 years. I don't think she will. But God, I love working on her and all of my mirrors. It's amazing. And it's funny because I mentioned Arlene Cohen of Works by ABC earlier. Now I feel like Arlene Cohen is in some ways the opposite in that her art is really in the stitching and in the way that she designs the stitching. Now, Nora, similarly, like translating her artwork into stitching I can't imagine trying to do it, and she does an exquisite job. But Arlene of Works by ABC does really interesting things with like the amount of floss that you use and how things are stitched. And she's actually, she's really into math. And so like the geometry of things that she creates is like really interesting. And in some ways it feels like the opposite of what Nora does, but it is also amazing. There are so many great designers out there, really. Okay, so on to the next Mirabilia. I have 2 more started. So the first one I'm going to show you is actually an out of print design. This is the second Mirabilia design, MD2. This is Fairy Moon, and I am stitching her on the Gray Stuff by Grace Notes Fabric. This is a 28 count, I believe, Lugana. It's like I don't know how well it's going to show on the camera. It's like a purpley gray. And I started in the middle of Fairy Moon. I just have a small start on her. That's her shawl in the middle of the design. I love stitching on her. She's very relaxing. I like stitching on her when I'm in sort of like a calm meditative mood. I can really get it is block stitching, but it also, you can see again with the shading. So from afar, you see beautiful shading. Up close, you can see there's like actually quite a bit of counting in there. So it is both block stitching and you gotta count. So I really enjoy working on her. She's beautiful. Okay, so this is the thing, right? So most Miras do fit on a fat quarter. Fairy Moon is just like a little bit wide for a fat quarter. So Fairy Moon is like 15 by 15 or something. So lengthwise, totally fine. But because of the positioning, you have the fairy, and then because of the positioning of the moon, which, yeah, I think the moon's gonna go over here. But because of the positioning of the moon, you really need a fat half, just because you need space to frame her and all of that. Much to my chagrin, because I had an amazing piece of fabric that was a fat quarter and I was mad. But I actually love this. This piece of fabric came into my life and I was like, oh, this would actually be perfect for Fairy Moon. I thought about doing her on a darker fabric, but I'm a little nervous because I know I really struggled to stitch on the black Ada for Ghastly Greetings, and I actually used to call that my beach stitch, even though it was Halloween themed, because I would bring it to the beach every year because there was so much sun and I could always see the black Ada. So I thought about doing this on a darker fabric, but I didn't want to have to struggle to stitch her. And I wanted sort of like a quiet, contemplative mood for her. So I didn't want to go too dark. So we'll see. I'm loving her on this fabric so far. I think she's going to look beautiful. I'm really looking forward to getting more colors into her. And then, oh my God, you guys, the colors in this stitch are gorgeous. Ooh, okay, so this is Princess Eliana by Mirabilia. This is my last Mira whip. So I will say this Mira has no silks in it, so no Karen water lilies. However, large bead pack, like 60 DMCs, and I'm not exaggerating. So because this particular design uses every new DMC color, I think it's like 1 through 34 or 1 through 35 or something, it has 1 through 35 plus like a whole host of other colors. So this stitch is literally like, I think it's like between 50 and 60 DMCs plus the bead pack. That being said, she's gorgeous. She is gorgeous. She is a joy to stitch on. I am stitching her on a one-of-a-kind hand-dyed fabric by Amy of Fiber Arts Amy. It is opalescent. I think it's 28 count. Let me look at these X's. I think it's 28 count. I believe it is 28 count. And I don't know if you can see because again, lighting tough, but it's sort of like, it's like a blue with like purpley splotches. I have measured 17,000 times. She is going to fit. Every time I look at this fabric, I get nervous that it's not long enough, but it is. I love this fabric. So Amy of Fiber Arts Amy has her own fabric dyeing company now called Oak Crown Studios. She is a wizard, you guys. She is a wizard. Her fabric is amazing. I have many pieces waiting, ready to go to start on her fabric. I also have other pieces in stash that I'm like percolating about, but her fabrics are just gorgeous. This is actually, I think this is my first piece on opalescent. Yeah, I showed, oh, that's not true. I have the letters from Nora on the opalescent. I am not finding it especially hard to see. I know some people say it is hard to see. I don't know if it's because it's a larger count. I also have not stitched on it a ton like at night, so we'll see, but I'm really enjoying her. I'm hoping that she will like pop enough, off of this fabric, because I do love the fabric and I don't want her to like sort of blend into the background. Princess Eliana, her dress is gorgeous. I'm a sucker for a big dress. When I was a kid, I was convinced that I was going to be a fashion designer / like a Barbie designer, and that I would get to design clothes for Barbies. This was like that, or like own a bridal shop. This was my life dream. So anything with a big dress, I just love. And they're fun to like. It's interesting because, again, I feel like Nora's ability to create the illusion of fabric with little X's is incredible. And they're really fun to stitch and, like, they're so cool. And she has so many designs with really cool dresses. Villa Mirabilia is on my list. I have her. She's going to get started at some point. The Snow Maiden has an incredible dress. Veronica is, like, all dress. Charlotte, I felt sort of meh about Charlotte, and she was like the unofficial stitch of the Queen City retreat, because the Queen City is Charlotte, last year when Nora came to the retreat, and I was like, I don't know about, and then I saw her stitched in person. Holy majoli, you guys. Her dress is like teal and green and like magentas, and it's so pretty. And now I have to stitch her, of course. I think I counted, the last time I counted, I believe like 50 Nora Corbett / Mirabilia patterns in stash. I could stitch nothing but Nora and like be set for the rest of my life. It's a problem. Okay, on to the next one. All right, so this is also a recent start. This was a new year. This was sort of my new year, new start. This is Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. Again, a lot of people have stitched this. This was the 2021 stitch along. This piece is just gorgeous. Everyone said it was super fun to stitch, and I was like, great, I want to stitch it. So I started it. There's my start. I am stitching this on 36 count flannel flower, which is a gorgeous neutral by Fox and Rabbit. And I am actually stitching this with two Cosmo flosses. I'm using two Cosmo purples. There's my little start. This piece is really large. I believe it's almost 60,000 stitches. The fact that people stitch this in a year is mind-blowing to me. I'm not on any sort of timeline with it. I'm just stitching it and enjoying the stitch. Here are the purples that I am using. I am using Cosmo 2033 and Cosmo 2031. I really love Cosmo flosses. They're like very rich in color. So far I'm finding them enjoyable to stitch with. Let me hold them up in front of the fabric. Hold on. Here's the, put the fabric on my built-in shelf here. And here's the colors. Yeah, so I think it's gonna be beautiful. I love purples. I wanted something that was bright, but not like bright. And I do love the flannel flower with the like sort of subtle modeling. It'll be sort of subtle modeling by the time this all gets covered in stitches. So that'll be nice. And I love these colors. At some point I have a full set of DMC. At some point I do want to buy a full set of Cosmo. Maybe I'll like treat myself for Christmas or something. It's similarly priced, I think. Although it's less floss, but yeah, I love Cosmo has some colors that DMC does not. And they're just like these very like rich saturated colors. I really like it. All right, anyway, next up is Yellow Submarine by Blackbird Designs. This is in the Beatles series. I think it's called Magical Mystery Tour. Magical Mystery. I wanted to sew Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough, who also now sponsors Stitch New England, and owns a local needlework shop up in Rhode Island. She's awesome. If you don't watch her Flosstube, definitely do. A while ago, like when I first started watching Flosstube, like 3 years ago, she stitched Yellow Submarine and Octopus Garden for her bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, I love the Beatles and I love those patterns and I want to put them in a bathroom. I need them. So I bought them. And I have started Yellow Submarine. Now it turns out that my niece, Eva, loves Yellow Submarine. It's her favorite song. She knows all the words. So now I'm thinking maybe I'll stitch this and like get it framed and give it to them and they can hang it in their bathroom so that Eva can have it. Here is my Yellow Submarine. I am stitching this on Vintage Cedar Plank by Lakeside Linens. I will tell you, I waited, I think 8 months for this piece of fabric. I ordered it and the stitching shop called me and said, I don't remember what, it was from an LNS in the Carolinas somewhere. And they called me and said, you do know that we don't have this and it's going to be a long wait, right? Like, are you okay waiting? And I said, yes, I'm okay waiting. I don't care when you get it. I have no plans to stitch this anytime soon. Just send it to me when you get it. And that's what they did. I believe the called for is like regular cedar plank, not vintage cedar plank. And that was my mistake. It's fine. I do like it on the vintage cedar plank. I worry a little bit about like the fish and things like blending in, but there are going to be pops of red in that flag. And I actually kind of like it because the submarine really pops. Yeah, I'm liking it. I really am. And I'm excited to stitch. I have the other half. I'm going to stitch Octopus Garden on the other half. So, yeah. I'm enjoying it. I stitched the outline of the submarine so I can just fill it in. I like to listen to the Beatles while I stitch on it. It's a fun stitch. And this is all done. I'm doing this all with the called for colors. This is all done in Classic Colorworks. No, Gentle Arts. This is all done in Gentle Arts. These are all Gentle Arts threads. Different, I know Gentle Arts has like Gentle Arts Sampler and Gentle Arts Shaker, and but they're all Gentle Arts. And like I said, I have all the called for colors for that. Cross Stitch the Globe again is doing a Beatles birthday style, I think. They're doing something with the Beatles pieces. Go look at Cross Stitch the Globe's most recent Flosstube for more info. They're doing some kind of like Beatles stitch along for the Blackbird patterns. I like some of the others. They're a different style and they're not as me, but I am sort of tempted to get them and stitch them just so I have like, you know, the set. That being said, there's so much out there that I want to stitch and I don't really have time to stitch things that I don't like love. So I might just stick with these. We're going to finish Yellow Submarine. We're going to finish Octopus Garden and then we're going to see where we end up. All right, next up. My only full-size full coverage. Here we are. Okay. This is Galaxy Girl by Molly Harrison. Haid offers a mini size, a regular, and a max color. Now, I debated a lot. So on the Haid website, Haid being Heaven and Earth Designs, they are a cross-stitch company that I think exclusively sells full coverage designs. And they do have an option where you can click, they have like an image of the artwork, and then there's an option where you can click and see a mock-up. And I found that really helpful. I did end up deciding to go for the regular color, not the max color on this one. Now, regular color Haids usually have between 80 and 95 colors. The max colors usually have between 200 and 215 colors. So there is a big difference in terms of the number of colors. You do get incredible clarity and detail from the max colors. However, the thing about max colors is there are some colors in the design where there's like 8 stitches, 4 stitches, 12 stitches. And I am not enough of a full coverage stitcher, and I did not think the difference was big enough between the regular color and the max color on this piece to make it worth doing the extra work, to be honest. She's huge. She's huge. So I'm using pre-gridded 28 count Lugana. I have numbered the, ooh, I got schmutz on my fabric. Oi, oi, oi. I didn't even see that. There's schmutz on my fabric. Luckily it's not on the design and I'm gonna wash it when I'm done, but still. Anyway, okay, sorry. So I numbered across the top and I numbered down the side. So that way, if I wanted to jump around in the pattern and not just stitch background, I could. I started in the top left corner with this pink. And then I got bored a little bit of the pink and I was like, I want to see a thing. So I counted like 6 times and switched over and started stitching her eye. It is astonishing to me. I did not even realize it in the pattern. Sorry, I'm hiding behind my fabric, but her eye is only like 150 stitches down. And there's still, this thing is 500 something stitches long. So there's a whole lot of pattern underneath her face. I knew that in theory, but like it did not register. That being said, I'm enjoying stitching this. I love all the colors. I love the pinks. Like it's very colorful. She's beautiful. There's so many pinks in this. By far the highest number of stitches is in her skin color, of course. She's going to be gorgeous. Will she ever be done? Who knows? I am very much a process stitcher. I mostly do not stitch things because I want them on my wall. Although I want to look at my stitching. I mostly stitch things because I want to enjoy the experience of stitching them and looking at them while I am stitching them. That being said, there are some amazing full coverage stitchers out there. If you want to see an incredible full coverage stitcher, Stitch Me Sane. She picks beautiful pieces. She tends to stitch the face first, so you can like really see things as she's starting. she did a WIP parade where she showed 45 minutes of nothing but full coverage pieces. And I was flabbergasted because I was like, there's literally no way I could stitch that many stitches in my life. Like, I don't think I'll ever stitch that many stitches in my whole life. And so I find that and that actually makes me kind of anxious. I have a lot of anxiety in general. Surprise, surprise, I'm neurodivergent and an anxious person and a stitcher. Who would have thought? But, yeah, so that actually gives me some anxiety, the thought of having all of these pieces that I could never possibly finish, even though it's not about the finish necessarily. So I'm trying to compromise because I do I'm enjoying stitching full coverage. I'm having fun. I'm glad I'm doing it. Sorry if you can hear the rolling trash cans. I'm enjoying doing it. If it never gets done, it never gets done. That being said, I would love to see this on my wall. There's a part of me that thinks I will stitch her face and then maybe cut it off. We'll see. I also did not realize, I did not do the math, and my mini Haid is 40,000 stitches. This is 200,000 stitches. It's a lot. So I've been thinking that I might start another full coverage. I know, hear me out. I might start another full coverage that's somewhere in the middle of that. So it's not a mini, but it's not 200,000. Maybe more between 75 and 125, somewhere in there. Because that to me I'm okay, I could in theory stitch 25,000 stitches in a year on a full coverage. And so if I can stitch 25,000 stitches in a year, then I could get it done in 5 years. So that feels reasonable. I cannot imagine, this cannot be done in 5 years by me. So I don't know, but I am really enjoying stitching it, and she's beautiful and I love pink. So I'm very happy. I will probably honestly skip around and just stitch little things wherever I want to. And then hopefully it'll all come together. We'll see. I can't believe I got, you know what it is? My dog loves coffee drinks and chai and all that. And I think this is chai that my dog managed to get the chai cup off the table and splash it everywhere and start licking it up. I think that's what that is. So luckily it's not on the design. I don't think. Yeah, no, luckily it's not on the design, but whoo! If she got chai on one of my actual designs, I'd be really angry. When I'm mad at her, I yell, Lucy tacos, because I always threaten her that I'm gonna make her into tacos. All right, next up, we have, I think it's called Midnight Magic or Little Magic by Stitcherovia. This was originally in a magazine. I absolutely loved it when I saw it. Was gonna buy the magazine, but waited. And then she released it as a PDF. This is my little itty bitty start. I have already managed to mess up the counting. You can't really see it, thankfully. But this tower is off a little bit, so I need to stitch. I'm gonna put another couple of stitches in there just to fix it. This is on 28 count even weave, dyed by Fangirl Fibers. This is the colorway Tron from the Disney Attractions Monthly Fabric Club. I did that club for a year. I'm no longer a part of it. I will say this. So I love the Fangirl Fibers colors. I love the theming. I'm a huge Disney nerd. I'm so into it. For some reason, her fabrics have a weird feel to them. I don't know if it's the dye she uses or what, but they just I don't love the texture of the even weave. That being said, it's worth it for the colorways, and it's something to just be aware of when you order her fabric. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what the deal is, but yeah. So that's my little itty bitty start. Although I'm not a spooky stitcher, I love cute Halloween. I love Halloween. I think Halloween's really fun. I love the colors of Halloween. I am aggressively not a Christmas stitcher. I'm Jewish and not really a Christmas person. So when I do holiday stitches, they're Halloween, or it's funny because I only have one Valentine's stitch, but I love Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is one of my favorite holidays. I mean, here's my, okay. Hot take. Valentine's Day is awesome because A, people in your life tell you how awesome you are. B, you get to eat a bunch of candy. C, you get to wear pink, which is my favorite color. D, it's an opportunity to say you love people to the people that you love. I do think that commercially there's often like a real focus on Valentine's Day on like, you know, romantic love, and I am not about that. I think Valentine's Day is for telling everyone that you love them. It probably doesn't hurt that my parents were big into Valentine's Day, and like I got really awesome Valentine's Day gifts when I was a kid, and even when I was in college, they would like send me a care package with candy and movies and magazines for Valentine's Day. So that's probably part of it. I'm also a sucker for greeting cards, and Valentine's Day has good cards, so, you know. But anyway, love Valentine's Day. All right, next up. This is a hip hop sampler by Shaded Stitchery to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the creation of hip hop. I really love Shaded Stitchery. I have several pieces by them. Shaded Stitchery also designed an amazing sampler called This Juneteenth Day that a bunch of people are stitching on, including Betty Stitchy, who is making it her focus piece this year. Here is my start on hip hop sampler. So I'm making several adjustments to this pattern. So I am actually stitching this in 37.99, which is like a very dark gray, not in black. 310. I will be adding in, so there is some étoile called for in the pattern. I will be adding in like étoile in other spots. And also sort of shifting some stuff around because I'm stitching it a bit lighter than was originally called for. This is being stitched on Ada, dyed by the Stitchy Ferret, who I mentioned earlier. This colorway is called Tutti Frutti. This is 14 count Ada. It took me a while to start this pattern because I really wanted to put it on something fun, but couldn't figure out sort of like the right vibe. And I decided that this Ada was the right vibe. I think it's gonna look gorgeous. Honestly, when I'm in the mood for monochromatic stitching, I'll pull this out. Yeah, it's a really fun one. This also might be a good travel stitch because I don't need a lot of light. I can just follow the pattern. I can take one color of floss. Sure you're seeing a theme here for my travel stitching. I'm gonna be traveling a lot, so here we go. Yeah, I really, I love hip hop. I think this pattern is like beautifully designed. I love Nuri's designs in general. I own many of them. I think I have like 6 or 7 of Nuri's patterns. And yeah, I love that Nuri celebrates this really amazing art form. I love like the motifs that were chosen to go on this sampler. Like yeah, I'm into it. It's awesome. And there's a couple of, I'm a huge documentary buff, and there's a couple of really interesting and very detailed documentaries on Netflix about the history of hip hop and the history of women in hip hop. There's one called Ladies First. So the other thing I've been doing is saving this to stitch on when I'm watching those. So it's a little start, but we're going to keep moving on that one. All right. So, last March, I had the pleasure of going to right from one subject to another. Hashtag, you know you have ADHD when. So, all right. So last March, I had the pleasure of going to the Steel City Stitchers retreat in Pittsburgh, and it was my first retreat, and I was alone, and I am extremely extroverted. And I was terrified. I like stayed up all night the night before the retreat because I was like so nervous and excited. I like had not met anyone who was going. I was so nervous. It felt like, you know what it felt like? It felt like when I used to go to summer camp, like the night before going to summer camp, like, oh, like who's my group gonna be? Like, are they gonna like me? Are we gonna have fun? Like, what's gonna happen? And I really was so lucky because I sat with a table of absolutely amazing ladies. I had so much fun. We are actually going on our own Stitchy Friends weekend in March together again. Unfortunately, we couldn't make this Steel City retreat this year. It's a different weekend. So instead, we are doing our own weekend. I'm so excited. And one of the people that I actually got to sit with by chance, who I had been sort of Instagram friends with for a while, was Stitchy Sarah Reads. That's her handle on Instagram. On Flosstubes, she's Sarah's Stitchery. And she did a WIP parade midway through the year last year. She also did one. If you don't watch her, by the way, go watch her. She's great. She also did a WIP parade recently. So yeah, if you like WIP parades, you're into it. But I was laughing because I watched her WIP parade and she had 90 something WIPs. And of those 90 something WIPs, we had one WIP in common, and it was Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow, which I will show later. However, she had a second WIP, which I was interested in stitching, and it was 100 Owls by Owl Forest Embroidery. So Sarah and I came up with the idea of doing Owl Forest Friday. So we were like, okay, on Fridays, we'll stitch on an Owl Forest design. I love Owl Forest. Owl Forest is a Russian company. Right now, I believe they're operating out of / through the EU. You can still order from them, although I will say that the shipping is pretty astronomical. I believe the base price for shipping from them is something like $15 or $20, and that's if you order like one thing. They do both really great patterns and they do beautiful variegated overdyed floss. And every year they do a free stitch along. And I believe 100 Owls was the stitch along in 2019, 2020, 2021 maybe? No, it had to have been 2019 or 2020 because it was like right when I started stitching. Anyway, I ordered the kit. I own, I think at last count it was 7 kitted Owl Forest projects. So I was like, great, Owl Forest Friday with Sarah, it'll be amazing. And I have been really astonished by the amount of progress I have managed to make on 2 Owl Forest projects. The amount of progress that I've been able to make just stitching on them on Fridays, and like a little bit other times, but really mostly on Fridays. So the first one that I'm going to show you is 100 Owls. This is on kit fabric, kit floss. This is 32 count, I believe. And this is with the Owl Forest flosses. Let me hold it back here. So I have no idea how far into this I am, but I do know that Owl Forest gives you tiny, tiny margins on their fabric, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to use this whole piece of fabric. My most recent big achievement was I finished this big owl in the middle and like went back up here, and now I'm going to come back around on the other side. I have a thing with owls. I love owls. They were the mascot of my college. I'm just into them. I love Athena. The owl is the symbol of Athena. Like I love owls. And I'm loving stitching this piece, stitching with the Owl Forest floss. It's gorgeous. Let me hold it closer so you can see it again. Like each of those flosses is a variegated floss, and they're just beautiful. They're really beautiful. So I'm loving this. The pattern is actually a free pattern that you can download on their website. Every year they do a free stitch along. So they did this one, they did an Alice in Wonderland one, they did a Wizard of Oz one, they did this year, or the most recent one was Treasure Island. They did a houseplant theme one. And you don't have to buy the Owl Forest threads. You can use your own overdyes, or there are DMC conversions out there, or convert your own DMC. But yeah, I really love stitching with the Owl Forest threads. The colors are gorgeous. So what I tend to do is I like get together like several patterns and floss packs that I want to order, and I'll just order them together. So that way I pay one shipping fee for a bunch of stuff. So those are my 100 owls. And then I've also started borscht. I just thought it was so cute. Like I love like the cozy kitchen feel. I love like the dog and the cat on the bottom. I just thought it was really cute. Anyway, and I am stitching this on 32 count Frosted Lemonade linen by Grace Notes fabric. I've always wanted a yellow kitchen, so here's my yellow kitchen. This fabric is quite yellow. It is like it's bright but light. I don't know how else to, it's not like a deep yellow. It's like a bright, I don't know how to describe it. I actually think the color in the camera is like pretty true to color. And I just have a start on it. Again, this is just working on Owl Forest Fridays. I've actually mostly been working on my 100 owls, but I did start this one as well. I am stitching this I went to the Grace Notes retreat last year in August, and I met a bunch of wonderful, amazing people. And my, the person I sat next to, Dana, my seatmate, I guess, she and I are actually both stitching this pattern, and she's stitching it on a beautiful neutral. It's looking gorgeous on the neutral, and I also think it looks great on the yellow. I cannot wait to see like the red pot in the middle and like the brown. I think the brown cat and dog are just gonna look so cute. Like, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. That's a slogan to something. I just don't know what. Also, y'all, this video is going to be a feature-length film plus. But we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. This is Vintage Halloween Carousel by the Witchy Stitcher. I am a member of the Witchy Stitcher Patreon. I love the Witchy Stitcher. Not all of her stuff is for me because I'm not really like a creepy, spooky horror person, but I love like cute creepy and I love vintage creepy, and I think the Witchy Stitcher is really talented. I also have a thing about carousels and carousel horses. When I was a kid, there was a small amusement park local to me called Nunley's. And the Nunley's Carousel, which actually there's a song by Billy Joel about the Nunley's Carousel. But the carousel was really beautiful and actually is like historically significant and has been preserved on Long Island, even though Nunley's is long gone. It's now a Pet Boys, unfortunately. But I just think carousels and carousel horses are really beautiful. I love like the ornate detail work, all that stuff. All that to say, Vintage Halloween Carousel by the Witchy Stitcher. Here's my start. I'm gonna stitch the horses, the like skeletons, in Sulky Glow in the Dark. Sulky sells a glow in the dark thread pack with 5 colors. I'm currently debating whether I'm gonna do like the white clear one or the orange one for the skeletons. Also, I did not really like start this correctly. I should have started it higher up. I did not realize where the fabric was in my Q-snap. So I'm gonna get real close. I counted and I will make it, but I'm gonna be real close to the bottom. Although I have to be honest, so I stitched the edges to like try and keep it from unraveling, and I kind of like the look. Like, I'm almost wondering if I should just like keep the piece of fabric like this, stitch the carousel, and then put like Happy Halloween or like, I don't know, something merry-go-round or like Merry Halloween or something. I don't know. I'm almost wondering if I should like keep it like this, or even if I cut it down, like stitch the edges so they have like that stitched edge look, because I really am gonna come very, very close to that bottom. What happened was I had this like centered in my Q-snap, and I should have started at the top of the Q-snap, and I started in the middle, and so I started like much lower down than I intended. Whoopsies. But I'm really enjoying stitching this. It's a lot of stitches of black. It's a lot of stitches of black. That being said, it looks really good. This is a piece of, picture this plus, even weave. Stitches look like it looks like this is 28 count. I think it is. Stitches look like they're 14 count sized. Might be 16. And again, I don't know which picture this plus neutral it is. Earthen, Oaken, Legacy, one of those. Sorry. So that's that. This is a wolf pattern from Etsy. I am stitching this as a gift for a friend who really loves wolves. This is taking me a while because it is a gift for a friend, and so I am being very, very careful with my stitches and like making sure they all lay right and taking them out if they're not nice and all of that. It's a pretty simple stitch. I love the color palette. This fabric is by Jody of the Steel City Stitchers. For a while, she had a Fabric of the Month club. It was awesome. RIP Jody's Fabric of the Month. That being said, she posts on her Instagram. Her Instagram is Jody Saunier, I think. I will put a link below. But she posts on her Instagram when she has bundles of fabric for sale. I almost always snap them up. She does an amazing job dyeing fabric. It's always like really interesting colors, very saturated, this is even weave and it's like very saturated. This is going to be a beautiful gift when it's done. I rarely stitch things just for someone else, but I'm really enjoying stitching this. It's a gift to a friend to whom I owe a lot and that I'm very close to, and so it's sort of like a gift of gratitude and appreciation. So that's kind of nice. This is by far also like the nicest. I'm so careful with these stitches. Like this is the nicest my stitches have ever looked, I think. Like I'm really like, if the stitch is not nice, I take it out. And I don't really do that with my other stitching. Okay. Next up is a biggie. This is Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. If you watch Flosstube, you've seen it. All right, you guys, this piece is so fun to stitch. Also, when I started it, I was pretty early in my stitching journey, tried it on 40 count. My experience is, so it's called for on Legacy by Picture This Plus. My experience is that Picture This Plus fabric is pretty tight and often shrinks in the dyeing process because I tried stitching this on 40 count Legacy and was like, oh God, I cannot do this. I can't see. So, and I had a piece of 32 count Legacy even weave in my stash. And I was like, well, I'll just stitch it on 32 count. It'll be fine. It is fine. It's beautiful. It's a blanket. It's going to be huge. Luckily, I love it because it's huge. So here is where I am at on Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. This is a fat half of fabric. I don't even think I can fit the whole piece in the frame. There we go. Is that the whole thing? Yeah. It's going to take up most of the fat half, certainly the top to the bottom. There'll be a little bit of extra on this side, but so I am stitching this 2 over 2 on 32 count even weave Legacy. Again, the Picture This Plus neutrals. So this is 32 count Legacy even weave. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I feel like this piece, like the brown spots are sort of almost greenish. It works really nicely for this piece. The 40 count piece of linen that I have that's Legacy is also beautiful, very different. If you told me they were 2 different colorways, I would believe you. And yes, I know linen and even weave dye differently. That being said, I've had pieces of Picture This Plus in, you know, different neutral colorways that look the same as each other. I've had pieces of Picture This Plus in the same colorway that look radically different. So again, I really do like Picture This Plus fabric, and their neutrals are, it's a bit of a crapshoot what you're gonna get. So I am stitching the borders when I need some easy stitching. This actually makes great car stitching because all I have to do is count and I just use the one color and I know how many stitches it is. I have a goal. So I am currently 35. My birthday is in May. And so I have, let's see, so I'm going to be 36 in May, 37, 38, 39, 40. So back last May, I set a goal to finish this by the October of my 40th year. So by October of 2028, which means I need to get 2 blocks done a year. Yeah, 2 blocks a year. So 2 in 2024, 25, 26, 27, 28. Yeah, so I have 10, and I have 10 more blocks to go. So I've started on the 3rd block. I'm using the called for DMC. I'm using DMC 310. This is a really fun stitch. I'm like really, I love working on it. I love working on it even when it's not Halloween. It's easy to see because it's 32 count. That being said, it's interesting because again, 32 count, I should not have a problem getting the floss through the fabric. Sometimes it feels tight, like 2 strands feels tight. And I'm like, dude, this is 32 count. 2 strands should not feel tight, but it does. I don't know if it's because it's even weave or because it's Picture This Plus, but yeah, I'm excited. This is one that I am really looking forward. This is gonna get custom frame, big ornate frame. This is getting a mat. Like we're doing it. We're doing it up. I'm in it. All right. We're getting close to the end, you guys. I promise. Okay. So this is a Long Dog Samplers. I love, once again, love Long Dog, have many patterns kitted up, have many patterns ready to start. This is currently somewhat on hold. This is a Peccadillo, which is one of the smaller patterns. This is called Quick Fling by Long Dog Samplers. And this is on a piece of Ada by Hand Dyed by Rolanda. This is a one-of-a-kind hand-dyed piece. And I am stitching this in Sulky. This is the only piece that I have started in Sulky, and I am currently using, the color number is 1030. So hold on, let's see, can the camera do it? Yeah, 1030, there we go. So I'm not sure I love it. I wonder if it's like a little bit too light on the fabric. I wanted it to have like a very delicate look to it, and it does have a delicate look to it. I'm wondering if it's too delicate. Not sure. I'm not sure what I think. Weigh in, let me know what you think. The other color that I was thinking is a very different look. It's a much bolder blue. So it's this, and again, it would be much darker. This is 1226. Hopefully you can see that. And that is what this would look like on the fabric. So not sure. Yeah, not sure. That's why I've stopped, because I'm just not sure whether it's too pale. Also, I don't love stitching with the sulky. I mean, it is nice and easy to do with one thread, but I feel like my stitches don't look that neat. I don't know. People love stitching with sulky, and I am just not that into it. Like, I wonder if I picked the wrong fabric. I don't know. I'm bummed because I love long dogs, and I like wanted to be really excited about this, and I'm just not. So I don't know if I need to change the color. I don't know if I need to keep pushing on. Like, let me know what you think, honestly. All right, next up. So last year I accidentally signed up for 4 retreats. This year I'm currently signed up for 6. And I'm planning on going to all of them because I'm insane. This is my first year going to StitchCon this coming year. I'm doing the like Stitch Away weekend with my stitchy friends. So last year I went to Stitch New Jersey in July, and I started these 2 pieces there. So this is Love is Love by Jan Hicks. This is a beautiful pride flag design. I love rainbows, and I am a queer stitcher, so I have a collection of pride designs that I am very excited to stitch. I think this June is going to be a pride extravaganza. I want to start like all my pride patterns this June. But yeah, this is Love is Love by Jan Hicks. I'm actually stitching this. Again, this is a piece of neutral Aida. I think it's Earthen, might be Legacy by Picture This Plus. It is 16 count, I believe. Might be 8. This actually might be 18 count. I might be lying. I think this is actually 18 count. And I am actually stitching these with paint box threads, which are hand-dyed threads from the UK. These are paint box threads. So this is my color palette for the pride flag. I bought these online. I love them. These are single ply, so you don't peel them apart the way that you do DMC. You just take off a piece and you stitch with it. I am actually planning on using this palette. Here, let's put it up against the fabric, shall we? I am actually planning on using this pride palette for a few other pride designs. There's a Pixel Pixie design that I have that's really beautiful that I want to use these for. There's also a couple of others that I've been looking at. There's some Prudence Kitsch patterns. If you have not seen the Prudence Kitsch patterns, look them up. They're very cute. They're on Etsy. And so I think I might use this color palette because I love how like rich and saturated the colors are. It's not like your traditional like primary colors. It's like a lot, very rich and saturated. So I'm loving that. And these are very enjoyable to stitch with. Again, it's just the one ply, you just go. It's looking good so far. I just haven't made a lot of progress. But I'm looking in June. June is going to be really the month of pride stitching, I think. And I'm going to StitchCon, so that's exciting. And then the other piece that I started at Stitch New Jersey, which is hosted by Arlene of Works by ABC, actually is a Works by ABC piece. This is Floral Lace. This is, I think this is supposed to be the top. I don't remember it. I have to look at my pattern and see where I marked off. But this is on Diva by Picture This Plus. I believe this is 28 count even weave. Yes, this is 28 count even weave. And I just found a little fuzz poking through on the front of my stitch. So I'm gonna pull that out real quick. There we go. Okay. So this is Diva. If you want like the boldest, brightest, most gorgeous pink fabric, Barbie pink, Diva by Picture This Plus. This was pre-Barbie movie, and I could not be happier about the Barbie vibes that this is giving. I'm actually stitching this in a Forbidden Fiber Co. floss called Cosmos Field. Now, when you put it against, oh, there we go. Okay. Now, when you put it against the fabric, it looks white, but it isn't white. And let me see, do I have something with a white background? Yeah. So it looks white. It's actually like a very pale pink to purple variegation. And I wanted that because the white against this bright pink actually looked too stark, I thought. So I wanted to pick like a light pink. Let me see. Wait, this is white Ada. So this might show better yeah, there we go. So you actually can see a little bit. It's a little tough, and yeah, I don't really have much natural light, so it's really the ring light. You can actually see it over here. You can sort of see it's like the pinky purpley color. Again, it looks white against the pink fabric, but it's actually this very pale pink, and it sort of softens it up a little bit. Now, the cool thing about Arlene Works by ABC's lace pattern, so she has one called Elegant Lace, she has this one Floral Lace, which is the smaller one, of course, is that one of the things that she does is she actually uses like half stitches and different weights, different amounts of floss, sort of like the dimensions kits, in order to achieve the dimension. So if you look at this piece, let me fold this up so you can really see it. Hold on. So that middle flower is stitched with 3 strands. Then these leaves on the side are stitched with 2 strands. And then this is actually stitched. These are complete X's, but it's stitched with 1 strand. So there you go. And it achieves this very cool look at the end of the piece. So I'm excited to keep stitching on this. It's really enjoyable. It's kind of cool too, like this different symbols are actually, instead of being for different colors of floss, they're actually for like different numbers of strands. So that's like a really cool thing. All right, we're almost done, you guys. We're so close. Okay. And these actually are the pieces that are mostly on hiatus. So you could, in theory, stop here, but why stop now? This is Don't Feed the Plants by Ingleside Imaginarium. I'm a huge musicals nerd. I love musicals. I love Little Shop of Horrors. I love this pattern. I bought it as soon as it came out. I'm stitching it on the called for. Whoop, that was not what I was expecting to happen. I'm stitching it on the called for, which is Garden Party by Bestitch Me. This is 16 count Ada. I love this fabric. I have seen other cuts of Garden Party that do not look like this. This was the dye lot from Nashville Needlework Market last year. This like corally pink and green is like everything. It is so beautiful. It's very warm. It's like a very, very warm color. I don't know if you're quite getting it on. Not that I had much daylight to begin with. It's been raining here for like weeks on end, but I lost the little daylight that I had. And so the ring light is like really washing everything out. But I love this color. I do love this stitch. This stitch, once again, gorgeous stitch, way bigger than I thought it was. This stitch is like over 20,000 stitches. So I am going to stitch this whole thing. I'm stitching it with the Call for Bestitch Me silks. I have the silk pack. What I might do is stitch the giant flower in the middle, like on its own, on a small piece of something, and then go back to the entire piece. Because I do love the entire piece, and I want the whole piece, and I want to put up the whole piece. I also might stitch the words "Don't Feed the Plants" on it, because that's from the musical and it's the name of the piece. But we'll see. I have a lot of very ambitious plans, like many of us, and we'll see when I get there. All right. These pieces are all pieces that are like on hiatus or on long-term break for one reason or another. This is a beautiful hippo pattern called Superstar, Sex Bomb. I don't know. I have a set of 4 really cute, like beach themed hippo patterns. I will put them up here. This is Superstar, I believe. Love the pattern. The thing is, it's by an Eastern designer, I think either Russian or Ukrainian, I don't remember which. And all of these grays are like 6 different blends. And I just don't know, I've said this before, but I just don't know that I'm like quite getting the like effect from all of the blends. And so genuinely, like, I'm wondering if I should just pick a gray and go with it. And like, I'm wondering if it's worth the work, basically. I love the patterns and I want them stitched. These are ones where it's not about the process, it's about the product. And I'm not loving the process. So I end up stitching on other things because I'm like, well, I want to stitch on things that I enjoy stitching on, and there's so much that I enjoy stitching. Why would I stitch something that I don't enjoy? So that's that. Next up is, this was a geometric piece. This is by 2x2 Stitch Art on Etsy. It is the size of this piece of fabric. I have literally only done the middle square. This is in 823, maybe, might be even 806, which is discontinued. I don't know, I have a cone of this blue. I was stitching this for a coworker of mine. We no longer work together. It's a fun stitch. It's a geometric pattern, it's great, but I started this again when I was new to cross stitch. It's on 18 count Aida. I have other geometric stitches that I like better. I'm wondering, I mean, I do love the pattern. I'm like wondering if maybe someday I'll restart it on like more interesting fabric or with more interesting floss. I'm not ready to like let go of it completely. Maybe I'll come back to it someday, but for now, I really should just make it a UFO, but I have trouble letting go of things. And then last but not least, oh, Jesus. Hold please, I just knocked over my soda. Sorry about that, y'all. I knocked over my drink. Oops, okay. Anyway, last but not least, literally on my last, like, anyway, last but not least, whew. Y'all, I've been filming for like 2 hours and I'm so tired. I took a break for lunch, I took a break to clean up the thing, but whew, I am pooped. And I like to talk. Anyway. Last but not least are my Carolyn Manning pieces. Now, these are all, so I have 2 Carolyn Manning patterns that I'm working on. The first one is Shooting Star Sunset, and I'm actually working on the smalls. I think it's 1 and 3 or 2 and 3, I don't remember. Anyway, here's one that I started on the top, and there's another one that I started on the bottom. This is just regular 14 count white Aida. Called for colors. And then I actually also started the same, so this is actually the same as this. It's the same pattern. This is 14 count Aida, this is 28 count Easy Grid. And I started stitching it on a tiny little piece of Easy Grid, and I kind of want to finish the little one. I almost feel like this would make amazing coasters. Like if I could stitch, I'm not going to do it, but if I could stitch the 4 of them like on these little pieces, they would be really cool coasters. I enjoy stitching on Carolyn Manning. The problem is they're symmetrical and I think I get sick of them, unfortunately, because they look so cool when they're done. But I think I get sick of stitching on them. I'm wondering if I need to start from the middle and go outward instead of starting from the corner and going downward, or if I need to like color complete. I'm not sure, but I need to do something because I don't need to do anything, right? I don't have to stitch them. But I would like to finish one of these. I've like started them multiple times. I started the big one on 28 count Easy Grid 2/2 so that it was gonna be like 14 count. It was huge. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And I ended up UFOing it because I was like, I'm not gonna stitch this whole thing so big. So maybe I should restitch the big one on small and start in the middle. I don't know. I own several Carolyn Manning patterns and I do really like them, and they're very easy, like relaxing stitching, but I don't, there's just so much other stuff to stitch. And then the other one that I have, which I actually love this. This is Quilt Sampler by Carolyn Manning. This is all the call for DMC. I did change the border. The border is supposed to be different colors and I'm stitching it all in 939. Now, this is maybe my oldest WIP, And I have realized, A, I cut it real small, and B, this side I had tape on and it's like gross and sticky now. And like, look how close that is. That's really close. And like, this isn't cut even. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm quite far in this. It's 18 count by Ada, but I'm honestly like, maybe I should maybe I should restart this. If I was gonna if this is a Carolyn Manning pattern, I actually think I would stitch, because again, it's not symmetrical. So you're stitching different things in the different quilt blocks, and I love the colors. So there's a part of me that thinks that I should restart this and just put it on a bigger piece of fabric so that I'm not like so tight on the edge. Cause like genuinely, like I'm wondering if I will run into like the sticky bits over here. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Let me know what you think in the comments, if I should restart it, if I should just abandon it, if I should just like make it smaller, maybe. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them. And that, y'all, that's it. That's all of my WIPs. I have so many, I probably have twice the number of kitted projects as I have WIPs, which is embarrassing to admit. I have so many things kitted. There's so much that I want to stitch. If you're still here, thank you for lasting through this epic feature film WIP Parade. Okay, it is the last week of January. I am going to Florida on the 1st. Maybe I will try to film like a short little like floss tube from afar. That could actually be cool, because I could do that at my bonus mom's house. But then I won't be able to film when I'm in Hawaii. I don't know. I might try to film a floss tube from afar. If not, I will film again in mid-February and sort of update you as to what I've been working on. Let me know if you have any thoughts. Please do leave a comment. Please like, subscribe, share on your Instagram story, tell people about how cool I am. Leave suggestions and thoughts for other things. I don't know. Just let me know what you think. I love getting comments. I read every comment that I get. You know, I've said this before in videos too. I didn't realize before I started making videos how awesome it is to get comments, like as someone who makes them. It's so cool to hear feedback and to know that people are actually watching what you make. It's really enjoyable. Oh, and before I go, I do want to show you, I love this. And actually, so I used to work at Paper Source, and they make a ton of like planners and calendars. And I am using this pug planner to track my stitching this year. Am I using it because it's the best format? No, I'm using it because it's so stinking cute. I had to have it. So it's the pug on the front, and then look, it has the little cinnamon tail on the back. He's so cute. Oh, okay. Anyway, I have a thing. You know how some people have like a thing about corgis or a thing about dachshunds? I just love pugs. They're the best. Anna of Anna's Books and Stitches has pugs, and oh, her pugs are so cute. I just want to smush them. Oh my God, they're so cute. Anyway, I keep very low-key, low-tech track of my stitching. I do use Nutty's Notions template to like log my WIPs and stuff. Like I said, please do like, comment, subscribe. Message me on Instagram anytime. I'm happy to chat about stitching, about life, about Narcan, whatever you want. Leave a comment here. I try to answer all my comments. I'm not always great at it. Sometimes I don't know what to say other than, oh my goodness, thank you. But oh my goodness, thank you guys. I love you all. Please be kind to the people in the world around you, and be kind to yourself. Mwah! Bye. See you next time.